Okay, I think you're all set, Stephen.
All right. Well, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:14. And I will ask if anyone has a declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing no positive indication of a pecuniary interest, we shall say none is declared, and we'll go on to amendments and approval of the agenda. You've seen it circulated. Any questions about the agenda? Someone care to move the adoption of the approval of the agenda? Sherry? Andrea? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. I'm not aware of any delegations nor any correspondence. So the next item would be to accept the minutes as presented and published. Andrea will move.
Actually, I have two minor corrections to make in the agenda.
Oh, in the agenda? or
Oh,
the
sorry,
minutes?
of the minutes. I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
That's okay.
On page 6 of the
Yep.
agenda, we have Andrea Slade seconding a couple of
Oh, my
a couple of
goodness.
motions, which has been known to happen in the past when dealing with Andrea Macco, but it should probably be corrected to my name. Thanks. Yes, both should read Andrea Macco instead of Andrea Slade.
My apologies for that. Those are noted and will be corrected.
It happens.
Oh, how'd that happen? I didn't touch it, I promise. Did I? Did you see me? You got to watch me. All right, so we're dealing with 8.1.2.1, which is recommendation to support the window sign permit for 163, 167 Queen Street East. And Jason, are you here to speak to that?
I am. I have another correction actually to the minutes. The subject line actually has Water Street North.
Yes, I noticed that.
So that'll need to get changed. The rest of the document appears to be correct. So the property at 163, 167 Queen Street East has multiple units in it. It is, anybody knows, the former entrance to the theater. So there's multiple levels. So it is kind of surprising that there's that many addresses, but that's how it all works out. So the unit that's looking for signage today is Lower East. And they are proposing a vinyl sign to be applied to the window. So that's the one that they're looking to do. The approximate size of the sign is 62 3/4 inches high by 42 3/4 inches wide. The coverage has been reviewed to the town's sign bylaw, and it meets those coverages. Based on those, you're still able to see through the window into the unit. And based on what's being proposed in the minutes, it doesn't detract from any heritage features of the building. And that being said, I'm putting forth that from staff that to recommend, or that the Heritage and Cultural Advisory Committee recommends my staff report and approval of the sign.
And so would someone care to move the acceptance of the staff report? Andrea, second. Trevor, any discussion? Jason, just to be clear for my own interest, when you're doing the evaluation of this coverage, is the fact that there is clear sections in the sign, does that actually factor in?
Correct.
Yeah,
The
okay.
clear, if it was, we've had some in the past, if they choose to frost in
Right.
between all of that,
Right.
then that actually gets coverage calculation. If it's just glazing behind and it's just the vinyl, then I use the window as the open space.
Very good. All right, all in favor of the motion? Carried. And the second sign is for 17 Water Street North, is that right? Or did I mess up my order here?
Correct. The second sign is for 17 Water Street. Water Street
South?
South.
South.
I'm Amy usually picks up on this, so I'm gonna
That's
blame it on
okay.
you. No,
You're among
yes,
friends.
it is.
What
It
can I
is
say?
south. We are correct. I better check the next one. Yep.
Yeah, you could read ahead if you like.
So,
But it is
the
correct
rest
in
of the
the body.
document, the rest of the document's fine for some reason.
Exactly.
So it is 17 Water Street South. It's one of our predominant buildings on Water Street South. It's on our east side. And I had a lengthy discussion with the new occupier of the property. And we went through quite a few different scenarios. The interesting thing is that they were very, very worried that nobody would know where they actually were in St. Mary's. And I advised them that I don't know that that's going to be it's an issue here. So let's think of something that's a little bit more subtle. And so, you know, I know that is a common thing that everybody seems to be doing, but this one is another vinyl sign. It mimics their corporate logo for color and in all of that. It is placed very low on the middle to long story high windows, and becomes very actually subtle with all the architectural details on this building. The size is 30 inches wide and 52 inches high. It is made by a vinyl again, but based on the large glazing in these windows, it is such a small space. And that's why staff is proposing that the committee approve the staff recommendation for this sign.
Would someone care to make that motion? Sherry, second. Karen? Any further discussion? The reflection of the Opera House across the street is not included. Bonus. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Now, how do we feel about the 8.1.2.3? Are we in pretty good shape on the address? No.
No, I'm 3 for 3. So for some reason, I wanted to put north on all my title blocks and type the body of the recommendation correctly. So this one is,
Just sorry, the body of the motion should say 13, not 17. No, in the recommendation.
The recommendation is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry. The recommendation is wrong.
that should say
The background address is correct at
That's all
13
right.
Water Street. So
We
we'll get
probably
those as long as the committee recognizes
Yeah.
the address.
Absolutely.
It sits directly beside the previous address that we were talking about at 17 Water Street South. Some people will know that this building probably time flies. So probably 4 years ago went through a rebuild of the front facade. And during that time, the designer created a very large signboard. So in this location, on this proposal, it certainly was very easy to pick the location. It was the signboard. The applicant is proposing a 2-foot by 8-foot long aluminum backed sign with a vinyl overlay to create the coloration of the anticipated store that's going to serve candy and ice cream and stuff like that. So that's why if you're looking at it on your laptop or whatever, it's very colorful. The G Eats and Treats, it is connected to next door. With those scenarios, the size of the sign, the coverage, those all meet the town's bylaw. The location is fitting for the new facade in the signboard, and staff does recommend to the committee to support the staff report.
Would someone care to move that? Trevor, second. Andrea, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise a hand. Carried. Thank you, Jason. And thank you for being such a good sport about us poking fun at the typos.
Yeah, the funny part about this was I thought I was so far ahead with Amy. Amy's usually on me to get my staff reports in, and I think I had it 2 weeks ago. I thought I was done, completed, and I made a mess of my report. So it's all in good fun. No worries.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, 8.1.3 is Heritage Grant applications, of which I'm not aware of any.
No, we don't have any. this
And
evening.
8.1.4, properties of interest or at risk, a verbal report, if there is one.
Yep. So I just wanted to give an update on how it's going approaching property owners on that ranked top 10 list. The optimism I had at our last meeting is waning. So the first property on the list, they were flattered that they were approached. It is something they have considered in the past, but just decided now is not the right time. So I did explain we're kind of under a time crunch here, that should they change their mind, they kind of have a limited window to change their mind. I then moved on to the second one, and that initial conversation was quite positive. They seemed very interested in it. We both had travel plans in between that time. So there were several weeks there where we just couldn't get together. And then when we finally did get a chance to talk, they had changed their mind as well. They did raise really a fair point, I think, in that some of these properties, and there's especially, like, they have maintained it to a heritage standard without the designation. And I don't know, they kind of put me at ease in the sense that, like, just because they're choosing not to designate doesn't mean they want to go destroy all the heritage elements tomorrow or something like that. But yeah, that was one I was really hopeful about. So I've moved on to the third, fourth, and fifth. The third was also a no. and I'm waiting to hear back from both the 4th and the 5th. So I guess in retrospect too, I had kind of been waiting to hear back from one until I moved on to the other, the next one on the list, which has kind of prolonged this process. So I feel like I could be a little more rapid in my emails, and by August, by August, I guess within the next month, I should be able to approach all of these property owners and kind of see where that leaves us. I know Clive had initially suggested maybe like a public open house or something like that. And I naively thought we might get too many people wanting to designate, like more so than we have staff capacity for. But I think I don't think we need to change our approach yet, but I think we maybe need to think about changing our approach based on what I bring back in August.
And just refresh us again on the issue. If we have 0 on the 10, then this open house idea would be to encourage anyone who is on the 112. Is that the idea?
We could do that.
That was the general idea, that we would kind of have a broader cattle call type
I think
solicitation.
in total, there were 35 properties that got at least one vote from someone on this committee. So we could approach those remaining 25 if we make it through the next 10. I was also reminded by one of our volunteers that there was a property on Emily Street. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but they had approached about designation a couple of years ago and had kind of got relatively far down that path, and then COVID hit. So they are not on this top 10, but I think they are on that top 35. So
that's where on Emily?
It was on Emily. I don't have the list pulled up. Just give me a moment.
Okay. So you might want to consider that for your initial accelerated, so 10 plus point kind of idea. Is that what you're
Perhaps.
thinking?
Well, I think I'll bring that back to the committee in August
Yeah.
for them to decide if we get through these 10 and they're all no's, then we will
I was just
obviously have
thinking
to.
in the spirit of acceleration, I mean, does anyone object to having that 11th item out of the 35 made 11th? I guess I just wouldn't want to see you. All we need is not to have a meeting in August, and now we're in the fall.
Right, that's a
So-
fair point. Let me just pull up.
I mean, if it's already been started, I sense a consensus that we would be open for you to add those to your list of 10.
Okay, so it's 140 Emily Street, the small limestone cottage built in 1862. And it did get one vote, so it is on that top
A very
35 list.
progressive vote. Karen, are you okay with the addition of that
Yes.
list? Trevor and
Yeah.
Andrea and Sherry? So if you want to take that under
Sure.
advisement, and I really appreciate the work you're doing, and you know what, it's hard to predict.
Yes. I thought especially with the passing of the Heritage Grant or the expansion of the Heritage Grant, that would be a good carrot, but not gotten us there yet. But
All right, good report. 8.1.5, homeowner property owner letters. Anything to consider under that item? Nothing at this point. All right. 8.2, museum business. And we have the monthly report. Amy, would you like to take us through that?
sure. So just a couple things I wanted to highlight. Under community partnerships, we participated in the St. Mary's Pride event on June 11th with a joint museum and Town of St. Mary's table. The Heritage Walking Tour brochure. So I've left one on all of your desks there. So this just arrived from the printer, I guess 2 weeks ago now. So this was a joint effort between myself and Kelly in the tourism department. And it has 3 walking tours in it, a North Ward, a South Ward, and a downtown walking tour, and with a total of 48 stops. And so this combines our old historic walking tour brochure, which I think we've just been photocopying on site at the museum since 1984, and it was long overdue for a refresh, as well as the Stories of the Stores brochure, and then Driftscape. So at the beginning of this year, our Driftscape was done. Can you still hear us, Karen?
Yes, yeah, perfectly.
Our screen, you've disappeared from our screen, but I don't know why. We'll just keep going.
Me either.
Sorry, so we reviewed our Driftscape numbers, and uptake was extremely low, especially for the annual subscription fee that we were paying. So we decided to not renew Driftscape and put our resources back into print, which not the direction we thought we would be going in 2023, but that seems to be what people want. So this brochure is a result of kind of combining all 3 of those promotional pieces. And Kelly had funding through the regional tourism organization. So we did a large print of these, enough that we should be well stocked for the next several years. And we tried to keep it as timeless as possible, and it was funded.
Hey.
Under grants, we were initially listed for our Young Canada Works intern, but we have since been successful with that funding. So interviews are actually underway this week, and we'll hopefully have a decision by the end of this week. Our community museum operating grant was due in late June and has been submitted. I've been providing some support to some colleagues within our department. So I guess just for everyone's own information or interest, because the museum applies to so many grants, I sometimes get pulled to assist with other grants within the municipalities. So there's been a couple of big ones there we've been working on. And then the slate from Town Hall roof, 2 crates of it were diverted to the museum to sell as a fundraiser. So we did that in 2016 when the bell tower was refurbished. And so we're selling those at $10 a piece, and sales are going quite well. Some highlights under programming. We are back into the retirement homes finally after a 3-year hiatus. So we've done programming at both Kingsway and St. Mary's VON. And we had a handful of year-end field trips. So we hosted a class from Holy Name. And then we also traveled up to Alma Public School and did kind of mass programming for all their grade 2, 3, and 4 classes during the last week of school. That was kind of an interesting one. They had visited a different museum as part of their early settler curriculum and didn't feel it was as immersive as our program. So we got a last minute request to go there to do some more programming with them, and they were happy to compensate mileage and everything to get us there. So that was good.
A road trip.
It was a fun Monday morning road trip for Emily and I. And then we led a Friendship Forest walking tour on June 23rd. So this was a group from India as well as their local hosts. So we do those maybe once a year with the Friendship Forest, and they're always fun tours. Otherwise, our It's All Fun and Games exhibit opened on Canada Day. So with that exhibit, we have both indoor games that people can play as well as outdoor lawn games with interpretive signs out in our lawn. And we'll have those down at the Heritage Festival on Saturday. We supported Canada Day and had just over 100 people through the museum that day. And we're kind of just an extra set of hands for the event coordinator that day. And then we had our first Heritage Kayak Tour on this past Friday. So Paul King has volunteered to lead those this year.
Oh,
We found they were quite time and labor intensive last year. And so we were trying to find a way to just basically make it so that Emily and I are not spending our entire Friday afternoon out of the office in order to make these tours happen. And so Paul was happy to volunteer with those, which we're excited about. Ben, our archives assistant, has been working on digitizing since he started, but is now actively uploading to Picture St. Mary's. And he's working on a collection of negatives that we received from Adenac Images when they closed. So there is new content being actively updated daily. So I think that's
excellent.
Very good. Would someone care to move receipt of that report? Sherry? Karen, I can't see you.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Karen, good.
Hands up.
Gary. Thank you, Amy. I'm a little disappointed about Driftscape, but I understand the need. I've been on the Driftscape product, and it doesn't seem to be catching fire, not only in St. Mary's, but generally their uptake seems to be, there are a couple of municipalities that seem to be embracing it, but whether they're getting the return for that is impossible to know.
Yeah, our user data was not great. It was well used for special initiatives, and I know Andrea can speak to this as well. When we used it for something like the Winter Lights tour, that was when we were seeing our highest uptake. But then we can also track users by postal code, and like 93% of our users had an N4X postal code. So it wasn't being used as like the tourism tool we had hoped it would be.
Good. All right. So moving right along to public art business. Do we have any to consider tonight?
No official business, but just an update that the policy did go to council in June and was passed. So our next step is to work on that inventory and maintenance plan for the pieces that exist already.
Very good.
Good.
And council report, I'm suspecting without the councillor and without the mayor, we may not hear too much about that tonight. Any other business? All right. If no other business, upcoming meetings were scheduled for August the 9th at 6 o'clock. And venue to be determined, or will we be back in our digs by then?
I think we'll be back in the MOC by then, and I'm assuming if all goes as planned, there is an agenda item already. So I would count on having a meeting.
Good. And that means we can adjourn at 6:43 if someone would care to move that. Anyone? Trevor, second? Sherry? All in favor, head for the door. No, wave and then head for the door.
My hand up. All in favor?
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone.